Hi, we're ecoMOD5. We were a preservation and design JPC grant that went to Falmouth, Jamaica. And my name is Effie Nicolau. I'm a third-year student in the architecture school.
I'm Allie Lozon. I am a fourth-year student in civil engineering school.
I'm Libby Engel. I'm also a fourth-year civil engineer.
I'm Matt Youngklaus. I'm a fourth-year mechanical engineer, and Jonathan Coble was our graduate student advisor, our main advisor, but he's now off working in the real world. He is a graduate student in architecture.
So first, to introduce our project, there's kind of two pieces that brought the project together. The first was the ecoMOD name, which was with Paxton Marshall and John Quale. Paxton Marshall's in the engineering school, and John Quale is in the architecture school. It's a design, build, evaluate project that works on sustainability and economic low-income housing. And then Falmouth Heritage Renewal was with Lewis Nelson in architectural history, and that was historic preservation in Falmouth, Jamaica. And so the historic preservation currently going on before we came down to Falmouth, Jamaica, was to restore these houses that were representative of the first free black population in the area, and so they're significant to the culture, to remembering their past heritage. And so a lot of the threats now down there is just over time and the weather, but also most recently in 2011, a new cruise ship port opened in Falmouth, Jamaica, and it's supposed to be a heritage tour place, kind of mimicking that of Colonial Williamsburg, and so they are wishing to partner somewhat with the town and with Falmouth Heritage Renewal, but also because of the economic opportunities, there are controversial issues which arise from that.
So a little bit of what we did, we actually started in the spring semester, and we were in a seminar, an architecture seminar, and we did a lot of different projects in that seminar. So right here is one of the examples. We each came up with a dwelling unit, and each group had a different category they did. So there was dwelling, there was comfort, there was convenience, and so these are just two examples of the different projects we came up with and finally developed. And then we did, wrong way. So we did different research projects. Each person had a different research project. Like mine was looking into solar energy, and then Effie did historic preservation and some more research into the actual historic area. And then the architecture students, as well as with input from us, all came together to come up with a design for the project. And so right here you can see is one of our examples of a web that we came up with to consider some of the local materials down in Falmouth. So you can see there's the corrugated metal on the top as well as concrete block. And then we compared them all at the end, and we took into consideration these different factors that we wanted to consider. And our final result right here, you can see, is we compared them all, and the wood, which is the yellow, and concrete actually won out. So we did all these projects, and throughout the whole thing, we did different iterations of the design. And so we all came together, and this was the actual site we worked at. So we did different designs for this building. And then part of our project over the spring semester was going down over spring break to do a site visit. So during that site visit, we did a lot of research. We talked to local community members. We went around the area and looked at the local architecture to be able to assimilate our design into the local culture there. So you can see right here, this was the house. It was 8 Princess Street. And what we tried to do was create a kit of parts. So that's kind of confusing, but we wanted to create a design that could be transferred to other houses in the area, that people could say, oh, I like this certain part, and I want to put it into my house. So it was a very transferable kind of cultural thing that we wanted to take our design and make sure it went into the culture and that people actually related to it and liked it. So also while we were down there, we did a lot of drawings of the site so we could come back and actually do the design. So we did the whole house. We also did the whole landscape. Our original site had a very big yard, so we took we took measurements of all of the things on the site and came back with those so that we could actually do the design.
So you might notice that this house looks a little bit different than the house at 8 Princess Street. So after coming back from our site visit over spring break, we worked for the rest of the semester on this design, this kit of parts for 8 Princess Street, but to be replicable throughout the community. At the end of the semester, about a week before we went down to Falmouth for the summer, we found out that there were home ownership issues with that original site. So Falmouth Heritage Renewal was no longer comfortable working on the site. They had actually started the historic preservation, and so we were forced to change sites. So FHR found us a new site, which this is 10 Albert Street, also another historic board house in Falmouth. And so we arrived in Jamaica at the end of May and spent basically the first week reworking our designs to fit 10 Albert Street. That being said, we had tried to design, like we said, for replicability throughout the community, but we soon realized that our design had gotten pretty specific to 8 Princess Street. So this design process was pretty long and drawn out. But this is our final result of our proposed design. This was the result of a kind of iterative process. We worked alongside with the homeowner, who is actually shown here. This is Marja and his daughter. He worked side by side with us, coming up, talking about designs, elements of design that he liked. We were really seeking to use elements of the local building culture as well as kind of modern design and sort of the ecoMOD spin on things. So the darker part in this picture is the addition, and the front part is the historic home. We were planning on restoring the historic home in kind of the tradition that Falmouth Heritage Renewal does. They save as much as possible. We soon found out that the historic home was about 98% infested with termites and basically falling down. So what we ended up doing was deconstructing the entire house, saving everything that we could. We saved some floorboards, we saved some windows, the trellis above the door, and then reconstructed it. So as part of the ecoMOD process, we were building as well. So after this week of design, we started the building process. The students and the FHR team procured all the materials. And here you see some pictures of students, people on our team, working directly with the workers at Falmouth Heritage Renewal, working alongside our homeowner, who was an extremely skilled construction worker and carpenter. And so now Matt will tell you a little bit about what the status was when we left.
So by the time we left Falmouth, the home was very close to the shape that you see it in right here. It wasn't ideal in any sense of the word, but as we said, it was kind of a difficult process. We knew that Falmouth Heritage Renewal would continue with our work once we had left. We weren't afraid of that at all, but essentially there were a lot of issues dealing with what we call Jamaica time, because it was very difficult to kind of get building materials, to have different people with specialized machinery out to the site. There were a lot of issues because it was kind of the rainy season in the country as well. Just really, led to some days of inactivity, some days where we could only really be working in the workshop back at FHR's home site, where we were working on a lot of the interior design elements, but which couldn't really be utilized on the home in this current state. Well, not in the current state, in the state that we left it in, where essentially we had the concrete footings poured, which took quite some time to level out correctly, and we had the concrete walls kind of in the rear for the new addition. The current status of the home is, as you see it now, pretty much the entire structure is built, all of the framing, all of the roofing. The interior still needs a lot of the work done, but the original addition is almost ready for a homeowner to move in, and Marja, the homeowner, is still very involved in the process with Falmouth Heritage Renewal. There were some issues with building permits again that delayed construction, but essentially we learned a lot from this process. I think that's essentially the spirit of JPC. Things won't always go exactly the way that you expect them to, and we had some issues in the beginning, through the middle, even after we left the site. But we learned a lot about working with the community. We had a lot of great experiences working with community members, trying to figure out these communication issues, working between students, professors, and these community partners to essentially identify the weak spots and do the best that we could with our time and with our resources. So thank you for your time, and we will address questions after this. Thank you.